In this episode, we're going to look at how to configure router interfaces. I'll show you how to do it, and we'll talk about the concepts along the way. Routers, in our example here, each have two LANs connected to them. Our task is going to be to configure the appropriate addressing on each device and verify connectivity between the LANs. We'll be discussing configuring IPv4 and IPv6 addressing and then verifying that connectivity. Greetings to all my tech heads out there in the KevTechify Nation, and if you're new here, welcome. This episode is part of my series on configuring examples for the CCNA. I'm Kevin here at KevTechify. Let's get this adventure started. Configure router interfaces. I have our packet tracer file open here. On the left side, I have our work area with all of our devices where we're going to do our configuration, troubleshooting. On the right side, I have the packet tracer activity window. I don't have the Word document open here because there are no questions, there are no blanks to fill in and save. We don't need the Word document. Looking at our packet tracer activity window, we have our addressing table, we have the routers, we have the PCs. If we look here, router 1, PC 1, and PC 2, they are all dealing with IP version 4 addresses. If we look at router 2, PC 3, PC 4, we are all dealing with IP version 6 addresses. The objectives: configure IP version 4 addressing and verify the connectivity. Part 2 is configure IP version 6 addressing and verify the connectivity. Instructions. Part 1. Configure IP version 4 addressing and verify connectivity. Step 1. Assign IP version 4 addresses to R1 and the LAN devices. Refer to the addressing table. Configure IP addressing for R1 LAN interfaces, PC1 and PC2. Over here, we are configuring all of these interfaces in the square. PC1, PC2, and the LAN interfaces. Not the red lightning bolt, but the black solid lines, the lines going out of R1 to the left, configure those IP addresses. Okay, first one, let's go ahead and configure R1 here. I clicked on it, I bring it over, I come over to our CLI tab. I made it a little bit wider, going left and right. It just helps the data format a little bit better. Click in the window, hit enter. I am logged in, and once again, our passwords are Cisco and class. So I type in Cisco, there we are. Type in enable to get into privilege exec mode. And that password is class. There we are. Refer to the addressing table, configure IP addressing for R1 and the local interfaces. Back here in our addressing table, we are going to configure G00, G01. Those are our LAN interfaces. The serial interface has already been configured, so we just need to configure those too. From privilege exec mode, we need to go into global configuration. I'll go ahead and type config T. Let's go into our first interface. So it's interface space G0/0. Go ahead and hit enter. Once again, our prompt now says we are in the interface configuration mode. The command now to enter in the IP address is IP space address space and then our address. We are in the gig 00 interface. This is the IP address we're looking at. 172.16.20.1. And then because we are setting the IP address, we also need to include our subnet mask. The addressing table says we have a /25. Going back, and we convert that into decimal notation. That is 255.255.255.128. Go ahead, press enter. No news is good news. And anytime I do anything with an interface, I always make sure it's activated. You activate it by doing a no shutdown. No shutdown. There we go. Notice the interface has changed state to up and our line protocol has changed state to up. That's what we're looking for. Now we need to go into the G01 interface. We don't have to type exit here. We can just go ahead and type interface G0/1. Go ahead and hit enter. I'm now in that interface. How do I know? I didn't get an error message. I typed it in. It took it. I didn't get an error message. I'm in that G01 interface. Go ahead. We'll set our IP address again. 172.16.20.129. So IP space address space 172.16.20.129, and once again that is a /25, which was a .128 at the end, so 255.255.255.128. There we go. And of course we're working on an interface. We need to make sure it's activated. Go ahead and type no space shutdown at this point in time. And we do see our interface has now changed state to up, and our line protocol has changed state to up. There we go. We've set the IP addresses for R1. Now we need to go and do PC1 and PC2. I'm going to go ahead and close R1. I'm going to click on PC1. There we go. I make the window a little bigger going right and left. Click on desktop and IP configuration. Here we are. Go ahead and make sure we are on static. Now we can enter in our IP address. We are on PC1 again. Here's our IP address and default gateway. Let's go ahead and set that up. 172.16.20.10. That was on a /25 network, which was 255.255.255.128. And then let's set our default gateway. 172.16.20.1. That takes care of PC1. Let's go ahead and configure PC2. PC2's address is right here. 172.16.20.138. On a /25 network, that was a .128 at the end. That gives us 255.255.128. And let's set our default gateway to 172.16.20.129. There we go. That is now set. I'm going to go ahead and close that. That takes care of part 1, step 1. On to part 1, step 2. PC1 and PC2 should be able to ping each other and the dual stack server. Okay, open up PC1. Make it a little bit bigger going right and left. We are going to click on the command prompt, and then we are going to ping PC2. Ping PC2's IP address is right here. 172.16.20.138. And because we're not setting that, we're doing something to an already existing IP address, we do not have to put our subnet mask in there. Go ahead and hit enter. We are pinging it. One request timed out, and then we get three successfuls. What had to happen was we had to do an ARP lookup. The ARP lookup. Start over with ARP lookup. The ARP lookup had to take some time. It took enough time to fail one ping, but then all 3 worked. If I do it again, I'm just simply going to hit up arrow once, hit enter. All 4 pings are going to work. Then we're going to ping our server. I'm going to slide our window over here so I can see what the IP address of our dual stack server is. Ping, and then our address is 64.100.1.10. There we go. Hopefully we're doing an ARP lookup. Press timed out. Second, third, and fourth one works successfully. If we do repeat that command, up arrow and press enter, all 4 pings worked. There we go. We have successfully configured R1, PC1, and PC2. Takes care of all part 1. Down to part 2, configure IP version 6 and verify the connectivity. Step 1, refer Step 1, assign IP version 6 addresses to R2 and the LAN devices. Here in our chart, we got our PC3, PC4. That's what we're assigning. And the LAN interfaces. Once again, the LAN interfaces on R2 is our gig interfaces. So we're going to go ahead and set those IP addresses. Let's start with R2 here. Clicked on that. Make the window a little bit bigger. Come back into our CLI. We're going to go ahead and log in. Once again, our password is Cisco to get into user exec mode. Our console access here, and then let's type enable to get into privilege exec mode. That password is class. We are now in there, and now we can go ahead and set our IP addresses on our gigabit Ethernet interfaces. First step is to get into global configuration. Go ahead and type configure T, hit enter. Now we can go into our interface. So interface gig 0/0. And once again, we can tell we're in the interface configuration by looking at our prompt. We can go ahead and set our IP address, IP space address space, and we are looking at the gig 00 address right here, 2001 DB8 C0DE :12::1, and our prefix is a /64. I'm going to go ahead and enter that 2001 :DB8 C0DE :12::1, and then because we're setting that address, we need to include the prefix. We need to include that slash number there, /64. Oh, look at that. Once again, no news is good news, but I got news. I did something wrong, and I'm trying to set an IP version 6 address, but I typed in IP. IP is for version 4, so I need to make sure that says IPv6. I'm going to go ahead and hit up arrow once, left arrow over, put in V6 in there, hit enter, and no news is good news. Because we're working on the interface, we need to make sure it's activated. Let's go ahead and type no space shutdown. Our interface is now changed to up, and our line protocol has now changed to up. Let's switch over to the other interface, gig 01. We can simply type in interface space G01 space, or no space, you can just go ahead and hit enter. Now we can enter in our IP address, IPv6, get that in there this time, 2001 :DB8 C0DE :13::1, and because we're setting it, we need to include that prefix /64. And no news is good news. I got news, so something's wrong here. I actually see two errors. One, I forgot the option to say I'm setting the address, and my 2001, I missed the 1 on it. Let's go ahead and hit up arrow once, left arrow over, put the word address in, and then 2000 and change that to 1. Go ahead and hit enter. There we go. We have now set that address. And of course, let's activate it. No shutdown. Interface went up. Line protocol has went up. We have now successfully configured R2 with its IP version 6 addresses. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that window, and let's go ahead and set PC3 and PC4's IP version 6 address. I'm going to click on PC3 here, click on desktop, go to IP configurations. Down here, make sure you're in the IPv6 configuration window. Make sure static is selected. IP version 6 address for PC3 is right here. 2001 DB8 C0DE :12::A. Go ahead, put that in there. 2001 DB8 C0DE :12::A. And then you don't put the /64, you don't put the prefix right there. You actually go to the next field here, enter in our prefix, and of course we need to put in our default gateway FE80::2. That's in the IP version 6 gateway field. FE80::2. There we go. That information all looks right. I'm going to go ahead and close that window. Click on PC4. Bring that over here. Click on desktop. Click on IP configuration. Down here in the IP version 6 area, we're going to make sure we're on static. Let's go ahead and enter in that information. 2001:DB8:C0DE:13:A. Go over here to the other field to put in our prefix. That's 64. And now our default gateway, FE80::2. We have now set R2, PC3, and PC4. We need to verify connectivities. PC3 and 4 should be able to ping each other and the dual stack server. I'm going to go ahead and click on PC3 again. Make the window a little bit wider left to right. Click on our command prompt. And we're going to go ahead and type PING and then the IP version 6 address. We're on PC3, so we need the IP version 6 address of PC4. That's right here, 2001:DB8:C0DE:13::A. 2001:DB8:C0DE:13:A. And we are connecting to an existing IP address, so we don't need that prefix number. We don't need the slash number at the end. Go ahead and hit enter, and it works. Once again, pinging ICMP in IP version 6 does not have to do an ARP lookup. So we're not going to have a failed attempt or two at the beginning of our pings. All 4 should work right away. We were able to successfully ping PC4 from PC3. Now we need to ping our server. I'm going to slide it over to make sure we got our server address. Ping space, and then once again right here is our server address. 2001:DB8:100:1:A. No ARP lookup. All 4 worked successfully. We have now configured and verified successfully all 4 of our PCs and 2 routers. That was Packet Tracer Lab 1.4.7 Configure Router Interfaces. It was my pleasure to provide you with this wonderful episode on configuration examples. If you liked this episode and you got value out of it, please click that like button, give a 5-star rating, leave a comment. This all helps me bring you more great content. Please take a minute to subscribe to my channel. All my socials and contact information are on my website, KevTechify.com. There you can find out how to get all these episodes in video and podcast form. Thank you so much for watching this episode of my series on practical configuration examples for the CCNA. I've created 4 wonderful playlists for you on the CCNA. These episodes, I go through all the concepts that Cisco calls out for the CCNA. Once again, I'm Kevin. This is KevTechify. I'll see you next time for another great adventure.